thank you for joining me. I am Hawkeye, and this is Maple Leafs Man Advantage. And I've got a special video tonight. I'm going to start working on here. Just in the sense, I'm going to break this into two parts because there's a lot of stuff I got to go over here. What I'm going to be talking about is the 1974 NHL playoffs. But I got to talk about how the Leafs did that year. Take a look at least a couple of teams beyond just the Leafs. Look at my own team and really follow the team that went on to win the Stanley Cup and look at how they performed. So there's quite a bit of stuff here I got to cover. So I'm going to break this into two parts. So just before I start, I just want to say definitely if you like this video, I would appreciate it. Just hit the thumbs up uh, or the like. As well, I would appreciate it if you subscribed. I've got some subscribers and I appreciate that. You can also check out some other videos that I have got going on here as well about generally about the Leafs. And if you want to comment on anything, go ahead and do so. It's awesome. I love to talk about hockey. So as I said, I'm going to talk about the 1974 NHL playoffs. And well, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they made the playoffs. Um, but when looking at the playoffs, it's definitely one versus four, two versus three. But the playoffs change after the first round once you get into the semifinals. What happens is the top team from the East plays against the lower seed in the West and vice versa. So it kind of switches things around and also can make a total East Stanley Cup final or a total West Stanley Cup final, or they can be mixed East versus West in the final. Um, that's fine. They were looking for a new flavor, I guess, for the playoffs. I don't know. I wouldn't need it. I'm not too crazy about it, and I don't think it stuck around very long. This that method in the playoffs, but that's what will be going on in the 1974 playoffs. So as I said, the Leafs made the Stanley Cup playoffs, so they're in fourth place. That's great. They got themselves a ticket for the dance-off, or the hockey playoffs. But who are they going to face? Oh, they're going to face the number one team during the NHL regular season, and that is the Boston Bruins, who have been really, really good since I'd say Bobby Orr's second year in the NHL. They were just getting progressively better, and then were able to win a couple of Stanley Cups along the way. But the Bruins during the season were the number one team. They finished with 113 points. That was 27 points better than Toronto. Pretty darn good. I don't think very many people had Toronto in their mind as being the winners in this series. So the Leafs are the big time underdog going on. And looking at the Bruins, they're going to be an extremely tough opponent for the Leafs. Um, so looking at the Bruins, you got Phil Esposito. He led the Bruins as well as the NHL. He had 68 goals and 145 points. He also led the NHL with 393 shots. So, Phil, he won the Art Ross, the Lester B. Pearson, and the Hart. Pretty darn good. The Bruins also got Ken Hodge. He had 50 goals and 105 points. He also had 11 game winners. Ken Hodge did. Bobby Orr on defense, still with the Bruins. He had 32 goals. Johnny Busick, he won the Lady Bing. He had 31 goals. Wayne Cashman had 30. That's a lot of guys with 30 goals right there. Don Marcotte had 24. So in total, the Bruins have six 20-goal scorers. But a couple of guys in the Bruins lineup as well. We also have Carol Vadna on defense, Cashman and Terry O'Reilly out there. You kind of got to know where these guys are. Some bit of muscle out on the ice for the Bruins. My guess is Gilles Gilbert should be the man in the net for the Bruins. Unless things like get out of control in there, he's not playing so hot. He had a 901 save percentage during the season, which was above average, and six shutouts during the season. So now looking over at the Leafs, it was Daryl Sittler. He led the way with 38 goals. I think on a previous video I said he had 35. No, he had 38 goals this season. Dave Keon had 25. Paul Henderson had 24. Ronnie Ellis had 23. Norm Ullman had 22. And Ian Hammerstrom had 20. So the Leafs also have six 20-goal scorers. They only have one 30-goal scorer, but they do have six 20-goal scorers as well. And for the Leafs, it appears the goals are spread out quite nicely here for Toronto. Um, but I guess a big question is, can the Leafs react correctly if the Bruins try and mix things up? Looking at the Leafs, they have Brian Glennie, Bob Neely, Mike Pellick, Ian Turnbull on defense for the Leafs, and Eddie Shack up front. So hopefully they can match it, or maybe do a little mixing up themselves, or try not to give in to the Bruins. Let them go to the penalty box, not you. See see what happens here. In the net, the Leafs have three options. They had three guys that played um, some time in Toronto. You had Doug Favell, who had a 909 save percentage. Eddie Johnston, he had an 894 save percentage, and Dunk Wilson, he had an 897 save percentage. Not bad numbers at all for each goalie there, really. But in my thoughts, they may need to play better. The goalies, really almost play over their head, really. And the Leafs really need to get their offense popping, really get it going. Um, Somehow, really kind of shut down the Bruins, but get your offense going. Figure out Gilbert and beat him in order for the Leafs to have a chance in this series. It's a tall ask. But the Leafs have got some talent too. But boy, these Bruins were pretty darn good. So game one was at the Boston Garden, and Toronto needed to bring their A game and not wait for it to come later. You got to start game one. The Bruins were just way too good to allow them to take games on you. It was a defensive showdown for game one, but Greg Shepard scored early in the second. Favell was the goalie for the Leafs, and he made 32 saves, did a real good job. But Gilbert made 35, and he grabbed a shutout, and the Bruins took the opener by a 1-0 score. Very close, very defensive. Oh, so close for Toronto, but the Bruins came out on top in game one. For game two, the Bruins spread out. They're scoring to six different scorers. Wayne Cashman ended up with a game winner, and Gilbert had 36 saves as Boston cruised to a 6-3 win in game two. So we're off to Maple Leaf Gardens, and the Leafs needed to tighten their defense like they did in game one. Don't let the Bruins score on you like that. You're going to be toast. But at the same time, continue putting the puck in the net like they did in game two. They were able to get some goals. Keep that going. Eddie Johnston's in net for this one, ex-Bruin. So for game three, it was Greg Shepard again. He had two goals and an assist. Gilbert must have played great for the Bruins as he had 45 saves. And the Bruins took it again by a 6-3 score. Leafs had a lot of shots, but Gilbert was on this night. Um, so Leafs are down 3-0. They need to win this game. Game four, this series is over. A quick series. Favell was back in net for the Leafs, and the Bruins put the pedal to the metal. But Doug, he made 41 saves. Excellent job there by Doug Favell. Gilbert had 30 for the Bruins. Um, and we these two teams went into overtime, the extra frame to see who the victor will be. And it was Ken Hodge who ended up with two goals in the game, including the game winner and an assist. And Boston skated away with a 4-3 win in game four and were able to sweep away the Toronto Maple Leafs in a quick series, but there were some tight games there. Two of them were just by one goal, but the Bruins eliminated the Leafs. Looking at the Bruins, you could say they got some of their scoring from secondary sources, as Greg Shepard ended up with 4 goals and 7 points in the 4 games. Bobby Schwartz had 4 assists and 6 points. Gilbert was awesome as he had a 942 save percentage, had a shutout, let in 9 goals in just 4 games. But their power play in Boston wasn't exactly killing it, as they only had 2 power play goals in the 4 games. But they got it done. So looking at the Leafs, Daryl Sittler and Ronnie Ellis, they both had 2 goals. Rookie defenseman Bob Neely led the way with 3 assists, and 4 points. Sittler scored the lone power play goal. Favel played he did what I was asking for. Um, he only played the 3 games, but he did have a 912 save percentage. Problem is Gilbert's was 942. Oh yeah, yeah. Um, Johnson in a lone game, was in his save percentage was 800. Uh, Unfortunately, not getting it done there. Um, and Yeah, the Leafs power play was like the Bruins. They had 2 power play goals in the 4 games. Oh no, sorry. My apologies there. Reading the wrong thing. Anyways, so what we're going to do now, the Leafs are out after the first series, but I'm going to look at my team now. We're in the playoffs, and I was wrong. So anybody out there that was looking at my team saying, okay, I'm sorry. It took me a while. I figured it. I got it wrong. Rick Middleton didn't play this year. He plays next year. So I'll hang on to him, put him in the minors for now. So therefore, I got Mike Murphy on my team. So this is the team that I'll be going into the playoffs with. Um, but I'm not going to end up in first. It will be the Boston Bruins who end up in first, not the Leafs. So that's okay. But I think with Perron, that makes a big difference as well. Um, we will do very well this season. But since Middleton didn't play this year, I'm just going to redo some of the trades I was going to do to St. Louis and LA. So I would trade Dave Lewis, Jerry Monahan, and Brian Marchenko to the St. Louis Blues for their second, fifth, and sixth rounders of the next draft. Um, and yeah, so that'll be what I do in LA. I don't make a trade with them at all and keep Mike Murphy. So there you go. So I would be in second place. So that would pit us up against the Montreal Canadiens. Oh dear. But luckily they don't have Ken Dryden. So I think we could beat the Montreal Canadiens. They have got a lot of talent, excuse me, but I think we could outdo them. Um, and I always lean back. I think it comes back to the goaltending. I think Perron, he won the Conn Smythe this year as a top player or the MVP for the playoffs. So he's going to be on. I think we could do it. The Bruins then would play the Rangers in the first round, and I think the Bruins would put them out. Could be a long series though. The Rangers still got a very good team. And in the West, it would be Chicago, I think, would finish first. Philadelphia would be in second. I'm going to say, still have Doug Favell in net for them. And I think with the trades I would make with Atlanta, could help them out. Maybe, um, maybe put Atlanta in third and LA in fourth. Change things up in the West, how that looks, as well in the East. So Chicago will play LA. Um, that still happened. Chicago would be the victors. Philly would play Atlanta. Um, but I think Atlanta could pull out a game, maybe two against Philly, but Philly would eliminate them. So Chicago, Philly, Toronto, Boston, those teams are off to the semifinals. And so that means the Leafs would play the Chicago Blackhawks in the semifinals. Um, I think this would be a nice, hard fought, long series. 7 games. We'll go with it. But I think whew, the Leafs would come out on top. I think they could beat Chicago, Boston, and Philly. This is crazy. Philly doesn't have Bernie Perron in that. I think the Bruins could beat the Flyers. I think so. So that puts the Leafs and the Bruins in the Stanley Cup final for 1974. Um, and that would be a great matchup, I think, because of Bernie Perron. And I think the Bruins would win it. Um, we'd be close. I don't know. What do you think? Am I out to lunch? Would the Montreal just beat us in the first round, or do you think the Leafs could actually go on to win the Stanley Cup with that team? I think we'd be close, but oh boy, I just think the Bruins could do it. Maybe they still got Esposito. Gilbert played well in the playoffs for sure. They still had some great players in Boston, but so that's what I think. Maybe Perot still wins the Conn Smythe in this world, but wins it on the losing team. I don't know. But yeah, if you got your 2 cents, put them in the comments. What do you think? But yeah, so that is that. We're going to jump back into the 1974 playoffs, so, and we're going to look at another first round series. That would be the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Rangers, the second and third teams in the East. And Montreal had won the cup the previous season, but as I said, they didn't have Kenny Dryden this year. Um, so we're going to look at Montreal here first, and looking at them, certainly they had some offense clicking. Is Yvonne Cornway led the squad with 40 goals. The Pavlich brothers, Pete, he had 36. Frank, he had 31. Jacques Lemaire had 29. Puck Lafleur had 23, and a young Guy Lafleur had 21 goals. Um, for the Rangers, look out for Pete. He's a big boy out there. He like to mix things up. Keep your eye on him. Make sure you know where he is out on the ice as well. In net for Montreal, like the Leafs, they had three different guys they played in the net during the season. So there was Wayne Thomas, who had a 907 save percentage with one shutout. Michel Bunny Larocque, he had a 907 save percentage, or Michel Plaze, whose numbers weren't quite as good. His save percentage was 863. So it might be more Thomas or Larocque that they may turn to in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens with them. So for the Rangers, Rod Gilbert led the team with 36 goals. Steve Vickers had 34. Jean Rattel had 28. Vic Hadfield had 27. Ted Irvine had 26. And both Brad Park on defense and actually Pete Stemkowski, they both had 25. And Walt Kachuk had 21. They had 8 goal scorers. That is good. That's better than that. That's very, very good. To have that many 20 goal scorers, they could put the puck in the net for sure. Um, so both Park and Irvine had over 100 penalty minutes for the Rangers. Park definitely wasn't afraid to drop the mitts if needed, for sure. He could get into a fight or a tussle if he needed to. Um, and then in net for the Rangers, they still had Eddie Jackman. He had an 890 save percentage, but he had 5 shutouts. And then there was Gilles Villeneuve. He had an 881 save percentage. If the Rangers are going to win the series, they need their defense to perform better, um, do better at keeping the puck out of the net, but keep that offense clicking. Um, that's what I would think New York would need to do to upend the Montreal Canadiens, who finished in second. So the opening game was at the Montreal Forum, and Bruce McGregor ended up netting the game winner about halfway through the first. Zuckerman had 23 saves, and the Rangers win it by a 4-1 score. The Rangers really did get off to the series on the right skate here, if you will. And the Habs need to rebound here and fast. For game two, it may have been Cornway who put the team on his back. He scored a hat trick, including the game winner late in the second. Montreal only allowed 19 shots, so that's really good preventative defense, I would say, not allowing the shots to get through to the goalie and turn the tables and won game two by a 4-1 score. So we're off to Madison Square Gardens, but guess what? Cornway wasn't done. Not yet. He had 2 goals in the first, including the game winner. Bunny Larocque, he was in net. He had 32 saves, and the Habs pulled out in front with a 4-2 win, and now we're leading the series 2-1 on the road. So game four, the Rangers offense rebounded as Irvine had 2 goals and an assist, and the Rangers tied the series up with a 6-4 win. So there you go. The goals are going in the net here. So we fly back to Montreal, and for Game Five, this was the pivotal series mover. It it's not rare for this to be the case. Game Five in a tight matchup like this, and it went into overtime. Game Five. Bunny Larocque had 39 saves. Jackman had 25, and it was Bruce McGregor who had 2 goals for the Rangers. It was Ron Harris who ended up potting the winner, and the Rangers win it 3-2 in overtime, going back um, home now because they're also up in the series 3-2. They're going back home for game six and see if they can eliminate the Habs at home. For game six, Jackman had 22 saves, and Pete Stemkowski grabbed 2 empty netters. Um, That's kind of rare. And the Rangers were able to eliminate the Habs in 6 games and win it 5-2. So for the series, Stemkowski had 4 goals and 9 points. McGregor had 6 goals. 2 of them were game winners and 7 points. Jerry Butler, who would actually be on my very Leaf team and would later become a Leaf as well, he led the way with 15 penalty minutes. Stimkowski, Gilbert, Vickers, they ended up with a power play goal each. And Matt Jackman did not really need to stand on his head for the Rangers to win. He had an 898 save percentage, but at the same time, that is still, 8 points better than it was in the regular season as well. And in comparison, Rocks was even better. It was 904, um, showing that the Rangers were the better team and were getting more chances to score, and ended up doing so and won the series. So there you go. Now we're going to look at another series in the first round, and that is the Philadelphia Flyers and the Atlanta Flames. This was the first time the Flames were ever in the playoffs. This was it, and they get to play Bernie Perron and the Philadelphia Flyers, who were the Broad Street Bullies and were bullies. Yes, bullies, no doubt about it. Game one was played at the Spectrum in Philly. Orest Kindrachuk had 2 goals, and Perron had 31 saves. Philadelphia won the opener by a 4-1 score. Game two, the Flyers kept it coming. Rick McLeish had a hat trick in the second period, including the game winner. He also had an assist. Perron had 20 saves, and the Flyers beat the Flames 5-1. So they're putting it on here against Atlanta. But they're off to the Omni Coliseum in Atlanta, see if they can rebound on home ice. But here, Bobby Clark had the power play game winner. Perron had 27 saves. And the Flyers keep showing their A1 defense here and beat the Flames 4-1. Boy, so the Flames had 3 goals in 3 games. They need to figure this team out here. They're down 3-0 and need to win game four just to keep this series alive. Now for game four, they skated into overtime. Now, Dave the Hammer Schultz earlier in the game got into a fight with Brian Hextall, and it was in overtime. Schultz scored the game winner. Bobby Clark also had 3 assists for the Flyers, and the Flyers win it 4-3. Sorry, and sweep through the Atlanta Flames to get to the semifinals. So, looking at the Flyers, Rick McLeish led the way with 4 goals and 7 points. Bobby Clark led the team with 4 assists. And who else but Schultz? He led the team with 32 penalty minutes in 4 games. Now the Flyers had 5 power play goals in 4 games, and Tom Glavine led, getting 2 of those power play goals. Gary Dornhofer, he also got a shorthanded goal for the Flyers. Annette Perrant had a 944 save percentage in 4 games. To compare, with the Atlanta goalies, we got Phil Muir, his save percentage was 885. And Dan Bouchard, he played 1 game, his was 846. So unfortunately, there is no comparison. Um, the defense was much sharper on Philadelphia's side, and they swept through the Atlanta Flames. So that ends the first part of this video. I'm going to do another part two or part B, flip the record over. I don't know. And I'll go from the semifinals onward and see what happens throughout the rest of the 1974 playoffs.